10-year note yields see a big move on a non-farm payroll Friday, trading in a 14-plus basis point range today. That's the widest day range we've seen since going back to August 5th. Now, we did see yields move lower, down to about 422 after a weaker than expected non-farm payroll number. However, then things reversed higher. We saw yields get back above 430 and actually extend north of 435 before closing out right around 435, up about 5 basis points on the session. Now, yields have been up 6 of the last 7 weeks, and this week no different, seeing a big move higher, 5 basis points higher on the day, 12 basis points higher on the week again, closing out this week at 435. Now, what does this mean for volatility? Well, check out that CVOL index over at cmegroup.com. You will notice that volatility continues to move higher despite being a weekend and despite coming after the big non-farm payroll data, where we typically see volatility moving lower. The market continues to forwardly look ahead. Obviously, the U.S. elections and the November FOMC meeting tops on the market's mind here. So waiting for some clarity after those two major events next week, helping to keep volatility elevated. And lastly, let's talk about what we do have next week. Well, we do have the election on Tuesday. Then we have auctions, 3, 10, and 30-year auctions next week. And then we have November FOMC on Thursday, where the Fed is expected to cut 25 basis points. But the most interesting part of that will be the afterwards when we hear from the Fed chair himself at the press conference. What will the Fed be looking at later? The Fed has remained data dependent, and following today's weaker than expected jobs report, the market is pricing in a full 25 basis point cut at next week's meeting. So a busy week with a lot of data points this week. We got GDP, we got inflation, and we got non-farm payroll. But markets, yields, and volatility both remain elevated as we await next week's major events, including the U.S. presidential election, the November FOMC, and more Treasury auctions.